So my name is Poiette Noel. I reside in the Washington, D.C. metro area, and I am the owner of No More Dust Maid Services that has been in business since February 2020.
Excellent. Where were you born? Where'd you grow up? Give us a little background on yourself.
Sure. So I was born and raised in New York, Westchester County. I left New York in 2002 to go to college, and was in Philadelphia for 7 years, where I went to school and worked there after college. And then I relocated to the Washington, D.C. area in 2009 for work. And I worked for the government, for the federal government from 2009 until this year. This year, I transitioned to a full time entrepreneur, and here we are today.
Excellent. Well, congratulations on the full jump into entrepreneurship. I
Thank
know
you.
it's
Thank you.
exciting and a little nerve-wracking at the same time.
Yes, very scary.
So you worked a full-time job as well as starting up a maid service, which I know a lot of people do just so
Yeah.
they can kind of get their feet wet a little bit in the business and kind of slowly transition in. Would you
Yeah.
say that
So
was a good step for you?
yeah, so I was I was working full time, and I randomly I'll get into the background of how I ended up starting the company soon eventually, but I randomly started I was in a cohort where I was learning how to build service-based business in January of 2020. So I did, all the things I required and launched in February. And then COVID hit in in March 2020 and kind of shut everything down. So I was working from home for a few days prior to COVID, and then it became 100% telework once COVID hit in March. And then when I had started the company, in my mind, I kind of had like a timeline and like a financial goal for when I would eventually leave my job. But then I kind of went through a lot of changes in my management over the last year and a half, which pretty much made me decide to leave sooner than I wanted to. But it has since then, I left in May, and since then, it has been the best decision I've ever made.
Excellent. You said you started January of 2020.
Yeah, I started building the business in January 2020, and I fully like launched, was able to take bookings starting in February of 2020.
So 1 month prior to the
So
whole world basically shutting down.
yes. Yes. And it was a very awkward time because I didn't know what that looked like for a cleaning business. And you know, I quickly found out that, cleaning businesses were labeled like essential businesses. They were still needed despite the country being shut down. So I was still able to operate. We pivoted a bit where we started doing like COVID disinfecting cleanings for like the first, like I would say between March and June of 2020. And then really literally the business just took off after that. It just continued to grow and grow and grow. And I continued to hire more people, market a little bit more, obtain more customers. And now here we are in year three, and we crossed the seven-figure line in June of this year. And it's just it's literally like when people ask me about it, I'm like, I had no idea I would be running a cleaning business. I had no idea I would, start 1 month prior to a pandemic. And it's been rolling. So, I'm rolling with it.
Absolutely. I feel when you start something, especially how you did, 1 month before, I mean, there's no words to what kind of we went through for those several years, but
Yes.
you basically started when times were toughest
Yeah,
for everybody and you persevered, you didn't give up, and it just shows obviously today what you can accomplish when your back's up against the wall and
absolutely.
you just put your mind to it and you grind it out.
Absolutely. Yeah, I tell everyone, because people come to me now, how can I start a business? How can I start a cleaning business? What other businesses are there out there that I can start that would be, profitable and lucrative? And I'm like, look, you really can do whatever you want. You just need to put in the discipline and the focus that's required. And for, I would say, a good year and a half, when I started my business, I worked on my business every single day. I did something every single day, whether it was updating my policies, changing our correspondence to customers, playing with different marketing platforms, teaching myself how to create social media content and learning like what's the best content for certain, audiences. Even teaching myself Facebook ads, which is literally one of the most complicated things I've ever had to figure out.
Especially when
I
they change their rules and things
Yes, yes,
every
yes.
several months.
Yes, with like iOS changes and privacy that like Facebook ads are always changing and you have to keep up with that. So I did something every single day for my business. I taught myself how to hire properly and what type of skills to look for in cleaners because everyone thinks oh cleaner just needs to clean, but they need to have a lot more skills than being able to clean. So I focused on not only educating myself on the business, but continuing to build out, things that I already had in place. Like when I first had my website, it probably had just like 2 to 3 pages, maybe a homepage, the actual booking form, and like our terms and conditions or something. And now I have, a ton of other pages. I have an about us section. I have a section for all of the types of services we offer and like the different locations we serve. So I would just teach myself how to do, web development, HTML, teach myself how to market, teach myself how to hire. And I was literally doing something every day for like the first year and a half of the business.
I feel like that was such a unique opportunity for you with, everything being shut down and all, but you capitalized on that and you maximized your time by learning each and every aspect
Mhm.
of the business, which if there's any takeaway from all these interviews that I do is that I truly believe that as a business owner, you must do that at
Yes.
least to some certain degree. You're not going to love everything. I'm not saying everybody's going to love the marketing or everybody's going to love the customer service. No,
Yeah.
but you have to know before you start hiring others because you don't know if
Correct.
that specific company is going to take advantage of you or if
Absolutely.
they even know what the hell they're doing.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
time and time again, people just throw money at SEO companies just because they have, they're a little bit less expensive than
Mhm.
somebody else, but within a couple months, their website is flagged and pages are taken down and they're like, what the hell do I do now?
Yep.
Like they go to the company and now the company's not responding. And it's just the little things that if you take the time to learn like you did, it just opens up so much for yourself and for your business,
Absolutely.
but it also saves you time and headache because you're not going to be now dealing with it later on after you already hired somebody. Now you got to learn the basics. Then you got to learn what they did wrong so then it doesn't happen again. Whereas if you could start the business and you can do it as you're growing and building.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't have to wait and learn before you do it because by the time you get to it, you might forget things or things might change. So if you just start the business and you go along and you're going to have to roll with the punches. That's the
Yep.
biggest thing.
Absolutely.
Roll with the punches, learn, and just don't give up. And
Absolutely.
everybody could have a successful business. It's not overnight. Nothing's overnight, but it happens. Absolutely,
Yes.
if you put the time in. Going a little bit
Agreed.
towards now your childhood and your background, like what were some of your favorite things to do growing up? Like what was your childhood like growing up?
Sure. So, I mean, honestly, for the most part, um, I tell people this all the time because it's like as a child, um, my parents were heavily focused on education. It was like education, education, education. Like that's all that mattered. You got to go to school, go to good schools, get a good job, graduate college. And that's like the key to a successful life. So it was like education was emphasized. And like as a child, I'm like, I want to go outside and play. And it's like, no, you have to do your homework. And and then it's like even, I got to when um I went to private school from like kindergarten to third grade, and then I switched over. My parents switched over to public school because we lived in a good neighborhood at the time. And then when it was time for high school, all my friends were going to the local high school, and my father was like, "No, you're going to go to this all girls Catholic school." And I was just so angry that, why would my parents do this to me? But it's like, now that I'm older and, I see like the difference in education and, what opportunities are afforded to different people based on their education. I'm so happy that my parents made the decisions that they did on my education, but as a child, you don't understand the effects in the
Right.
long run. But I would say my parents put forth a lot of money and effort and time into making sure I had the best education there was around. And I think that really propelled me in life as far as like my work ethics, my ability to like learn different things in different areas. I never thought I would be doing human resource work. I never thought I'd be doing marketing work. Like I have an engineering degree. So, but this is all stuff that I needed to know to run a business. And to me, I feel like my education allowed me to be able to tap into those areas and it not be like a challenge to learn.
Huge.
But yeah, so I would say as far as my childhood, it was just strictly education. We went on our annual summer vacation right before school started every year, to Florida, and then after that, it was just academics the entire year, and then some summer camp during the summer, and that was really it. So, I feel like just the heavy focus on education is kind of like what allowed me now as an adult to be able to like build a business from scratch and like run it in a way that it's booming, it's growing, it's profitable. And I'm still I'm still here to tell the story about it.
Huge shout out to your parents and all parents around the world who take education seriously.
Hmm.
And you probably now, when if you look back at yourself as a child, you're possibly cursing them up and down for, why can't I be with my friends at this school, like
Yeah.
you're treating me unfair. And they probably said, well, when you grow up, you're going to thank us for this decision. And now it's safe to assume that you do.
Yes. Yes, I am very grateful.
Did you know what you wanted to be when you were younger?
No, honestly, I thought I was going to go into the medical field, when I was a child. I thought I was going to be, some kind of doctor or some kind of nurse. Even my father is Haitian, and he migrated here to the US, in like the mid early 70s. And most immigrants when they migrate to the US, like their focus is also education so that they can get a better life and, be able to bring their family members to the US as well and settle here. So I didn't just to focus on, I guess, making sure that whatever discipline that I chose when I did go to college would give me a good job when I graduated, was like very crucial in my household. So I initially started off undergrad studying biomedical engineering. I wanted to be in the medical field, but more in like a engineering capacity as far as like building like medical equipment, overseeing companies that build medical equipment or create medical equipment. That was my initial plans for life. And that quickly changed after sophomore year because the school that I went to had what is called co ops, where you pretty much do like three internships throughout your college career that you also get credits for, and looking for a job at the time for biomedical engineers was like impossible. There were like no jobs available. So I had to kind of make a quick, pivot to switch to a concentration to a degree that would allow me to not only carry my credits that I had already taken, but will also allow me to get like a decent job when I graduate. Because that's really what most people go to college for, is to get a good job when they graduate. So I switched to after sophomore year, I switched to what my university at the time called commerce and engineering, which is more of like industrial engineering. So I did a lot of like business process improvement when I graduated. A lot of policy writing. I worked for like low income housing at the time. So I would look at all of our processes and decide how we can improve things. Writing policies and procedures and manuals. So, what I was doing then is completely different, obviously, from what I'm doing now. When I transitioned to the federal government, I ended up doing more compliance work. So, like auditing, making sure that our internal offices were following the guidelines that we had set forth for them. So I kind of, so moved around into different areas. I would say within the last decade, and then the last few years in my job, I was doing project management. So everything from like identifying a problem and coming up with a solution with different parties involved, different federal agencies involved, and leading the group to some final solution. So yeah, thinking about when I started college as biomedical engineering to eventually moving on to project management and now being a business owner, like I would have never in a million years predicted that I would be where I am today doing what I'm doing today.
I feel like that transition from high school into college, where it's like for the people who know what degree they're going for, it's like,
Yeah.
all right, I'm going to knock this out. When I graduate, I'm going to get, XYZ job, and
Yep.
that's the path. But I feel like more and more I'm hearing just that change is so different, especially in the home service business owner space. So many people go to college for other things, and then they graduate, couple years they're in that field or similar, or maybe even a different field, and then maybe it's not fulfillment or whatever the reason, but they look to
Mhm.
start a business and they become, business owners of home cleaning or others. So it's kind of fascinating to see how that kind of
Things
plays out.
change. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and now I'm actually considering maybe starting another service based business. So like I said, I never in a million years thought I would be here, but now that I know what I know and I know what I'm capable of and I know, all that's entailed, I'm like, oh yeah, I can absolutely do this again.
You start a home service business, it gives you the most well-rounded aspect of being a business owner slash entrepreneur because of hiring and, delegating other tasks for marketing and just everything else, customer service. Whereas if you go into, let's say product, you're selling product, you're not really, you don't necessarily have to hire customer service. You could do that
Right.
yourself,
Right.
or you're basically form on your website can tell the customer everything they need to know: shipping time, return policy,
Right.
everything
It's
like
more
that.
straightforward.
Absolutely. And that versus this, I've talked to some people who have transitioned from selling physical products to this, and they were like, my mindset before I started was, oh, I handled that great. I wanted to try something new. I figured it would be an easy transition and I would know how to handle it all. Then they go about a month, 2 months in, completely different beast,
Yeah.
because now you're dealing with customers and
People.
people and like disputes with credit cards and
Yes.
damages, and then now employees who are doing the work. It's just such a completely different atmosphere than whether it's product or consulting or something like that, it's this is, I feel like, the most hands-on business that you can be in,
Absolutely.
and you learn so much.
Absolutely. And I would say, because people ask me all the time, like, what's the top thing that you've learned from running this business? And the people aspect is something that is just huge. Like, I even, try to explain to my cleaners and my virtual assistants on like a weekly basis about just human psychology. And I think what has made my business so successful is like the customer experience that I've created for my customers. Like, it's not just getting your house clean, it's, the reminders leading up to the cleaning. So you remember, hey, you have a cleaning coming up on Friday. It's the confirmation email that lays out what to expect and, all of the details of your cleaning. So if there is some confusion about something, that confirmation email is going to clear it up. It's the sending the text that we're on our way. Then we do the cleaning, and it's the walkthrough at the end to make sure you're satisfied. And then you're receiving this rating email or text message to let us know how your experience was. And then you can log into your account anytime and see where your next cleaning is or schedule another cleaning. It's that entire experience. And even for my new customers, I require my VAs to follow up. Even after the text that comes with the rating, I have them follow up the next day asking, like, human to human, how was everything? Was there anything we could have done better? And then a week after that, I send all of our new customers like a thank you card and like a small, room spray as a token of our appreciation. And that entire customer experience is what keeps people coming back. They keep coming back, they keep booking more cleanings, they tell their friends, they tell their family, and just like making that seamless and making them feel good and valued is honestly what keeps customers coming to me. It keeps us with recurring customers. I would say about 80% of our calendar is recurring customers. And that's huge because that means that if, God forbid something happened to me, or, maybe I lose some staff one month, I still have those recurring customers that's going to keep us afloat financially. And that's important. But then just treating the customers as humans as well. Like, I always try to tell my VA we have to humanize people. So yes, I have all these policies in place for, specific reasons. However, I make exceptions sometimes. And customers remember that. Like, oh, I know I didn't report this in 72 hours, but this is why, blah, 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 blah. This is the situation. No problem. We'll come back out and address it. You know what I mean? And they remember that. They remember how I treated them. They remember how I talked to them, and they'll come back. They could have had a horrible cleaning. But how I treated them after I spoke to them is what makes them decide if they're going to come back and use us again, or if they're like, forget this company. I don't like them anymore. So it's
Absolutely.
just that human psychology, and I always tell my cleaners, like, customers do not like change. Um, do not change something at the last minute. Like, they like to know what to expect. So if they know that their cleaning is from 8 to 10 and the cleaners are going to arrive between 8 and 10, don't call them at 8 a.m. asking to come at 12 p.m. Like, that kind of creates this uneasy, well, I have an appointment at 12:30. How's this going to work? So, I try to get my cleaners to understand changes happen, and that's okay. As soon as you are aware of that change, communicate it so we can set the expectation for the customer. Let us know in advance so that a day before I can say, hey, we have a schedule conflict. Is it okay for us to move you from this window to that window? Then they're like, okay, yeah, I can just move this, or I can plan for my day after that. But last minute changes is, if I learned with humans, it is not a good feeling at all. And then just knowing how humans operate, like, I always try to put myself in the role of a consumer. Like, I'm a consumer. How do I like companies to treat me? How do I like companies to handle me if I'm not happy with something? I'm going to treat my customers the same way I would want to be treated. And like, they love that because it's not like they're just dealing with, like, a computer or like a chat bot or something. They're dealing with humans that feel the same way as them. And I think that's important when running like a home service based business, because you're going into people's homes. So like, they need to feel like they can trust you. They need to feel that you're, a transparent company, and that your cleaners are kind and caring. and care about their home as well. They need to feel all of those things.
You hit the nail right on the head with the people don't like, consumers don't like change,
Yes.
especially when you're selling services and depending on where your price range falls. If your prices are at a premium because you offer premium service, having, like you said, potentially a cleaner who would start to frequently, either not necessarily create an issue, but have issues come up
Mhm.
more frequently, it puts a stain on your brand
Yep.
and it also hurts your bottom dollar. With you saying 80% of your business is recurring customers, that's absolutely amazing because for people who don't realize, 80% of your business is customers that are coming back. That just shows you that the one-time cleans that they had was so fantastic and you
Yeah.
provided such an amazing service that now they're like, this is it. I'm not searching for
Yeah.
anybody else. I don't need to. This is who I want to be with. So, like you said, if you get ill or if, you lose a couple
Mhm.
cleaners, you still have that revenue coming in where you don't necessarily have to worry about things falling out of
Sinking. Yep.
place. Yeah. Anybody in your family a business owner?
Yes. So I completely left that out, and I'm glad that you asked that. Because that's important. My mother has actually been a business owner since I was 3 years old. So I've seen firsthand how entrepreneurship works. My mother has a school and a nursery school and a daycare. So it's babies on one level and pre-K on the next level. And initially, she started out doing it in our house. And then a few years later, we ended up purchasing a separate house to use for the daycare. So, yes, my mother has been an entrepreneur since I was 3 years old. And I think that probably that had a lot of influence on how, I guess, how confident I was, tapping into the entrepreneurship, arena, just knowing that, yeah, like, anybody can do it as long as you put your mind to it, as long as you put in the work and the focus and the discipline that's required, anyone can run a business.
Bless her and anybody who works with children or
Yes.
any aspect of that because it's just so hard.
It
Imagine
is.
having your own two kids and being a stay at home parent
Yes.
and them running around. Multiply
Yep.
that by 5, 6, 7, and now you have, I like to use sports reference. Now you have a whole team of
Yeah.
little kids running around that you and maybe one or two other people are now looking after. And these are the years where curiosity and learning comes in. So you are now molding them into being they are little humans, but
Yeah.
little adults, like shaping them into what society needs and wants from growth. And just, again, blessings to her and everybody else who does that because it's
Yeah.
tremendously hard, tremendously hard.
Yeah, and I would say, like, there was definitely a huge educational component, being around that, because my mother, she's generation is baby boomer. So, like, when she started her business, everything was super manual. And as we, kind of transition to this like technology era, that generation is not so great in technology. And seeing how she was able to kind of adapt slowly and implement new things into her business that she probably didn't know what the heck she was doing. Like, that education, just observing that and seeing like her being able to adapt and go through this huge information era that has things have changed completely from 1987 to 2023. That showed me like a lot, that change happens and you'll adapt to it. It's going to be uncomfortable at first. There's going to be a learning curve, but you'll survive and you can do it.
100%. And our generation is I feel like a lot of generations are have their own uniqueness, but ours
Yeah.
is so much so just because we still grew up with, typewriters,
Yes.
analog dial up,
Yes.
when in my house we had wired phone where you still spun it. And
Yeah.
if I showed that to my nephew and would be like,
What's
call
this?
me, he'd be like, I
What?
where's the touch screen? Where am I looking here? We're so much better at adapting to technology
Absolutely.
because
Than
we
any other
were
generation.
at the beginning of those stages with all of it, basically.
Yeah.
All of it.
Yep.
And now it's everything. I mean, walking into a restaurant or a coffee shop, and I basically don't even carry my wallet anymore. There's
Yeah.
Apple Pay. You could directly pay somebody from your phone. Cash is barely taken
Yep.
nowadays unless it's like a small mom and pop place that
Right. Right.
doesn't
Right.
want to do processing, which again, huge for that as well. Um, yeah, it's just, especially in this space where you still see businesses who don't necessarily have online booking or
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
doing in home estimates.
Yeah.
Those
That's
are
huge.
5, 10 years ago, those were everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's going on now was the start then. And now I feel like in basically all the major metropolitan big cities and even the surrounding areas, there's like maybe one or two left on like the first 5 pages of Google.
Yeah.
They're basically slowly, for lack of a
Getting
better
phased
word,
out.
dying off.
Yeah, absolutely. Because they don't really want to do that. They don't, people want things easy. If they wake up in the middle of the night at 2 a.m., they want to be able to go online and book something, not have to wait till 9 a.m. to call somebody on the phone. And then they schedule something, and then now I have to go get cash from the ATM or write an old fashioned check. People really don't want to do that anymore. I feel like that's also a generational thing where maybe another generation prefers that method, but most of our customers do not want to do that. They love the ease of the credit card, online payment, cashless. Even if they want to add a tip, they can add it. Um, yeah, it's definitely phasing out, and then just the ability to book online or just set up an appointment online is life changing because we all have so many things to do. We're all working or doing taking care of all types of responsibilities throughout the day, and it's like you don't want. I don't. If I want to book a cleaning at 8 p.m. at night, I should be able to do that without having to wait till business hours open the next day.
And there are still ways where you can collect that booking by having
Mhm.
online booking, but it doesn't necessarily have to go through. Like Nicole and Joey that I interviewed a couple weeks ago, they allow it to go through, but they still call the next day so that they can
To confirm
inform them
everything.
of terms of service and policy of, hey, this is how our business does it. You know, uh, we require a deposit, and it goes like that. So you're not missing out on
On that
those
lead, yeah.
potential leads, and especially with the way cost of marketing is per lead, if you miss out on one, it could be the difference of yes or no them not booking, or yes
Mhm.
they become a 5 year recurring customer where it's
Exactly.
every 2 months, and after the first one or two bookings, that cost to acquire them is now wiped and everything else is pure profit. So
Yep.
technology is massive. When it was introduced, I feel like it started to get more and more people introverted. And
Mhm.
now,
Yeah.
especially after the pandemic,
Yeah.
I feel like mostly people are like, if it's online, I should be able to book it and get it. And I mean, Amazon spoiled us with two
Yes.
day delivery, and now it's For some things, it's 2-hour delivery.
I yes, same day if you have $35 or more of eligible purchases, you can get it the same day.
And there's the same with cleaning services. Some offer same day services. So
Yeah,
it's just
we offer same day.
how you want to structure it exactly, and how big is that for you to show customers the lengths you're willing to go to back up your
Uh-huh.
prices and back up why you are the best and why you say you're the best. So you started January 2020. Your
Mhm.
website went live February, you said. When did you get your first booking?
I got my first booking in March. I was just looking at this yesterday. My first booking in March. Am I able to see? No, because I was actually using a different platform when I first started the business. I started booking koala in I think June, May, June of 2021. So I was using a different booking tool, but yeah, I got my first booking in January 2021. I mean, sorry, March 2020, and revenue for March of 2020 was $346.
And how did that feel?
I felt like I made $1 million that day. It was just the I guess accepting that wow, like I have a business in place and people booked something with me. It's real, you know what I mean? Like this is really happening. It felt amazing. Like you could not have told me I didn't make $1 million that month because the fact that I just got a booking was, satisfying enough for me. Just, if anyone when they any cleaning business when they get their first booking, it's the best feeling in the world because it's like I'm really doing this. Like this is really happening.
That's
And then it
exactly
just
what I was going to say is no matter what business, but especially this, when you put so much time and effort into it and you get that first booking or first couple bookings, even when we launched the software 5 years ago, when we first started getting signups, it was like, holy cow,
this is
it's
happening.
really happening. And it, like you said, you couldn't tell me anything in that moment that would take that high away from me. And it
Yes,
just
yes,
makes it all the work that much more worth it. And it also propels you to now be like, I got one. Now, why can't I get one every day? And then one every
exactly.
day becomes into two every day. And it just starts to snowball and it gives you that drive to
Keep going.
keep going and knock it out of the park for sure. What would you say your inspiration was to start the business?
I always knew that I wanted to have my own business someday. I just wasn't sure when or what that would look like, or what kind of business it would be. When I started that cohort in January, it was like I think it was called like Launch to 27 or
Launch 27.
it was a yeah, so it was a program where, you do something every day for like 27 days. At the end of the program, you'll have this established, business. So I had even missed the first few days. And by the time I jumped in, I was like, oh, this is interesting. And, I kept following everything all the instructions they were providing us, setting up all the things that they were telling us to set up, taking in taking notes for all of the calls and all of the information they were providing. I was like, okay, I think I can do this. Like, let me see how this goes. And I actually chose cleaning because there were like a couple different options at the time. It was like landscaping, laundry service. It may have I think somebody else was doing maybe like a mobile detailing service as well. I went with cleaning because I always felt like if I didn't have cleaners, I myself am a really good cleaner. So I did a few cleanings at the beginning of us, operating. So I went the cleaning route because I felt like if all else fails, I can fall back on myself. I know that I'm a good cleaner. I can clean houses. So just kind of going through all of the information and each day, all the stuff we went over, marketing and hiring and setting up your website and what platforms to use to find cleaners, what platforms to use to find customers. I'm like, okay, I think I can do this. And then once I launched, I'm like, okay, well, I've told everyone now. So it's like you have to do something. Like you you gotta keep
Can't
going
back
because
out now.
yes, you've literally told so many people, like you'll just look crazy if you decide not to go forward. So I think that that accountability now that I've shared with everyone that I started a business, I have to do something. I have to keep it moving. I have to keep it pushing. I have to grow this business. And once I started getting bookings, like that definitely inspired me to keep going. Like you're on the right path. And that the comment you made earlier about like, because a lot of people they carry this fear about starting and they want to know everything up front, and that's just not how it works. Like you will learn as you go, so you have to start. You don't have to know every single thing when you start. You just have to start, and like literally all the things that I needed to know, I eventually learned them along the way. And I wouldn't have been able to learn those things until I started. So that's a huge lesson for just entrepreneurs in general. Like you have to start. And you'll learn and you'll make mistakes and you'll survive. You'll live. No one's gonna die. You know what I mean? I tell people like especially with like policies, our policies when we started versus our policies now are just completely different because a lot of times it takes like a customer burning you for you to like update your policies. Like we used to do 24-hour holds and now we do 48 because we got burned too many times. Or I used to be so lenient with cancellations and rescheduling. Now I don't do it anymore. Like you're going to pay a fee. Like it is what it is. So and then just like our recleaning policies and how we communicate, like I had to learn things, I had to be tested, I had to get burned several times in order for me to put in place good solid policies for our business to survive. And it's like I wouldn't know that until I started. So that's
And
always the advice I give people who are interested in starting their own business. Start somewhere and then you'll learn what you need to learn along the way.
that's with anything in life. If
Anything.
it's you start a new sport, or say it's baseball or softball, you're not going to be the next, Barry Bonds in the first day, or Jenny Finch, or,
Right.
everything takes time. You go and you start step by step. You take your lessons, you learn the basics, and you hammer those basics down. Same thing for business. It's the same. It's just how life works and how we as
Yes.
humans learn. Maybe a couple thousand years from now, evolution will open up our minds to the moment we learn something, we're experts. Who knows? Maybe
Yeah.
we won't fall down that rabbit hole. But again, as we are now, it's just the way it is. It's just the way life is. So if you think you're going to start and your business is going to be $1 million business within the first year without doing much work, you are kidding yourself big
Yes.
time.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I'm not saying your business can't be $1 million business in the first year, because it 100% can be. We have seen it done
Yeah.
multiple times. But the work that went into it, it literally blows people's minds when you start to tell them what you had to do to get to
Yeah.
that point so quickly. If you want to jump it 5 years, you got to jump your learning by 5 times. You got to
Yeah.
multiply that by 5 times, or even 10 times, because the first couple times is going to be mistakes. So
Yep.
now you have to ramp it up even more. So it's just, like you said, starting, get in right away,
Hmm.
start learning, and don't be afraid to make mistakes, because those failures are lessons in themselves. So you know what not to do the next time.
Yes. Absolutely. I
Just
agree
because
100%.
you feel just because you failed doesn't mean you didn't learn anything. You learned
Right.
exactly how not to do that specific thing. And now you know for the next time you won't do it that way, and you'll get a different outcome. You may fail again or you may succeed, but at
Right.
least you know not to do that way. How much did you invest when you first started the business?
Like financially,
Yes. Well,
It
financially, and I would now, since we're still on that topic, time wise, how much time and
Sure.
effort?
Yeah, so financially it wasn't a lot, surprisingly. I would say probably less than 200 bucks. I really only had to pay for like my domain name, which was like a one-time annual fee, I think. The actual hosting, which was like a monthly thing, maybe for like 30 bucks a month. Um, I don't even know what I'm paying now. The booking tool, I think Launch 27, it was maybe like 120 or something at the time for monthly subscription. Um, and I think for the most part that was really it. So it was just the kind of just the startup cost for having the website and the booking tool. Stripe is free. They just take a percentage of your transactions. I did start paying for marketing ads with like Google and social media, maybe like 4 or 5 months later. Because my initial like marketing was just word of mouth, telling everyone I knew, telling them to tell their friends and family. I didn't get approved for local service ads, which was a big thing. I don't use it right anymore, but it was a big thing, especially in 2020. I didn't get approved because they were so behind due to like COVID and low staffing till like 4 months after I had started. So I wasn't even spending money on that yet either. So I would say my initial financial investment was less than 200 bucks. Um,
I just want to stop you right there.
yes,
You are number one. You are at the top for the person for the business owner who has spent the least amount in starting
really.
their business from everybody I've asked. Yes. So, just as a recap for everybody, within 3 years, a $1 million business and started with $200.
Yes.
So anybody saying that it can't be done without dumping thousands and thousands of dollars into it, the proof is right here.
It's right here.
It's literally happened, and it can be done just like you said, word of mouth. The way you can start this business and grow it. You don't
Yeah,
even need to. You are a cleaner yourself in the beginning, which is some things that we tell people. If you can't really find cleaners right away, if you want
do
to
it
start
yourself.
today, sign up for Booking Koala. You can
Mhm.
have your website up in 60 seconds. You could start taking bookings. You input yourself as the cleaner, post on free Facebook groups, word of mouth,
Craigslist,
like you
Facebook
said,
groups. Yep,
and you could start rolling and have revenue within. If you started today, you could even get a booking today potentially, or as
absolutely.
soon as tomorrow. So again, it's 1,000,000% possible to get a $1 million business. It
It
just
is.
takes time and effort and perseverance
Consistency
and
too.
consistency. Absolutely. Please
Absolutely.
keep
I
telling us more.
it's even saying that we've grossed $1 million, it's still I don't even know that I've fully accepted it because I never in a million years thought I would touch, be able to say that I built something that literally brought in revenue totaling $1 million. Like it just doesn't seem real. Cause like I feel like when you have a 9 to 5, like even when I was with the government. You can make six figures, you can make a lot of money, but there's a cap at some point. You're
Wait,
never gonna make.
and again, I'm sorry, you were doing that while working a full
Yep.
time job.
Yes. Yes.
And
The
so
multitasking was real.
I can't wait to hear the hours that you put in, what
Yeah.
you spent your
So
time on
speaking
that.
on that, I would literally I worked 7:30 to 5 at the time. And I would literally be on my computer from like 7 p.m. till bedtime every night. Um, like I said, I did something every single day for my business, whether I was spending 30 minutes just updating policies, or I was spending an hour, searching on Craigslist for cleaners, or, writing, trying to write some quick sheets for my cleaners on this is what to do when you get to a client's house. This is what you do at the end of the cleaning, writing some policies, or even just trying to recruit an assistant and knowing what that looked like, what type of qualities I should seek, because that's not something I initially knew. I've heard of businesses having virtual assistants, but I didn't know, like, okay, like, how do you know what's a good virtual assistant? You know what I mean? Like, I want this person to do all of these things, but how do I know that you're qualified to do these tasks? What type of proof can I ask for? What type of personality traits do I want the person to have? What type of background experience do I want them to have? I had to learn all of that. I had to figure that out. And that's something else that you learn, along the way. So I may interview someone, they sound great. Like, yes, they're going to knock it out the park. They're going to be amazing. And then, I'll hire them and I'll review some of the calls. And I'm like, oh my God, like, you can't say that. So it's like I had to learn, like, okay, next time I'm going to need someone that's a lot more bubbly, a lot more warm, a lot more happy when they're on the phone. But you just don't know those
Engaging
things.
too,
Engaging, yes.
asking
Just
the right questions.
yes, absolutely. And yeah, knowing what interview questions to ask them and knowing, kind of how I wanted this person to talk to my customers, like what personality traits they had to have in order for me to feel comfortable that they're going to make my customer feel good over the phone. Because sometimes you can have an assistant that's talking to customers and they're not confident, or the customer will just move on to another company. So I had to teach myself all of that, and it was just I allocated a certain amount of time every day. Some days I may have spent 15 to 20 minutes doing something. Other days I may have spent 3 hours, but I did something every single day. So I would say my time investment, um in Rohan, whose program I was in initially, he used a good example that I use the same exact example, is that your business initially is kind of like a baby, and that when you first have a baby, you have to do everything for them. You have to feed them, you have to change feed them. They can't survive without you, right? But like by the time they're like 3, 4, 5 years old, they start becoming more independent. They're potty trained. They can talk now. You don't have to do as much. So the first 2 years at least, you have to do everything. You have to get all of your policies and processes in place, systems in place, automation. I have a ton of automation now that I didn't have the first year. I was doing everything manually. So you have to spend all of your time putting this stuff in place if you want the business to eventually be able to operate without you. So I'm not at that place just yet, but maybe give us two more years. I can probably be completely hands off.
A little shout out to Rohan there. I know competitor in the space, definitely started out the path for everybody in this. So shout out to Rohan. And I 100%, me and Philip use that same saying. Business is exactly like a newborn child. You
Yeah,
have to nurture it. You have to teach it all those things. You
everything.
you need to teach it to stand, get its balance, and then you start walking, and then you
Yep.
start jogging, and then you start running. That's exactly how a business is. Again, going back to that reference, you're not going to start your business
Knowing
and
everything.
it's not going to be Usain Bolt, a world record sprinter. It
Yeah.
just doesn't happen that way. You have to nurture it and take those steps to do that. And to clarify, it's not the revenue you have done has amassed over 1 million in the
Mhm.
3 years. What are
Correct.
you doing? What are you projected to do currently this year?
60. Probably at least a half a million we're projected to close out this year with. Because especially December gets insane. Sometimes we're like overbooked in December.
Those
So
holiday
yeah,
seasons before family comes
yes,
in.
yes. Yeah, and even November, like Thanksgiving, Christmas, everyone's booking cleanings during November and December. So I would definitely, if we're at 318 now, I would definitely expect us to close by 500,000 by the end of this year, by 500,000.
Huge. Amazing. Amazing stuff.
It is, it is. It just talking about it out loud, I'm like, wow, wow, like
And I'm so
it's
happy to see your genuine reaction to this because you you and every other business owner that is putting this much drive and passion into it, it's so hard to sometimes take a step back
mhm,
and just look at the big picture of what you've already accomplished and how you got here. I know I try myself to reflect every day on what that day has given me in a positive light and also in a negative way, just so I can learn from that negativity and take it
yeah,
forward. But like you said, talking to somebody new that you've never really met before. We've only spoken through email a couple
yeah,
times, and this is our first face to face. And I've learned so much about you and your business, and that I feel like that's massive for people to do is also take those experiences to share your story
yeah,
because you have everybody has such a unique story and experience that they bring into their business and life in general. Um, take those when you can.
yeah,
Don't if you're a little shy or a little scared of the outcome, that's totally fine. Embrace it. Don't push it off. Kind of embrace it and just see where it goes. When I first started these interviews, I was scared as hell myself. I was like, I'm gonna look goofy, this and that. And sure, I did. But again, there's the first thing you do, want the first time versus the 100th time, it's going to look completely different. And when you get to
yeah.
that 100th time, you're going to look back and be like, wow, I can't believe how much has changed. And that's exactly how it is for you. You're looking back on day one when you first started, that first month, $337 in revenue to now potentially closing out this year at 500,000 in revenue. So
Yeah,
massive, massive, massive things that you have accomplished in such a short amount of time. And the fact that you also did that by working a government job.
I know, I know. And it's because I have friends that are full-time entrepreneurs, and we've talked about this over the years, like, when are you going to leave your job? Like, what's the financial goal that you want to reach before you're comfortable leaving? And in my mind, I had this goal that once I hit 50,000 a month, I feel comfortable that I can, move away. And right before I left my job, we had hit like 47,000 for the month. But I was just so done with the job that I'm like, you know what? Forget it. I'll figure it out. And one of my friends said to me, look how much you have accomplished with a full-time job. Imagine what you'll do now without that job and all this time. And I'm like, you're absolutely right, because now I'm like, I want to transition to doing some commercial contracts and government contracting, something I couldn't do working for the government because it was a conflict of interest. But you can get government contracts for a couple $1 million, you know what I mean? So it's this 1 million can be 10 million by the end of next year if I really, really, really put my mind to it. Um,
100%.
it's yeah, it's just it's like having a job was to me a great thing because financially it allowed me, backup plan if things were to go horribly bad. We have low peak season where people are not booking cleanings in January, make a little less money. January, February, typically. My job allowed me to fall back on some type of financial cushion. But now I just actually started paying myself in January. This was before I even knew I was leaving my job. I had hired a bookkeeper last year because I was doing all of my accounting myself for the first like 2.5 years. I hired a bookkeeper last year, and she kind of got everything together in this nice, beautiful format where I can, on any day, I can look at a snapshot at where we are financially, what I'm spending on this area, what I'm spending on that area, how much profit I made at the end of the month, and so on. And now, I'm paying myself, and I'm like, I don't need a job. Like, they need me. I don't need them. So It's I the sky's the limit at this point. Because even like when I looked, I was kind of going through just my monthly amounts in 2020. It was like the first month I made $10,000. That was huge, like huge. I think it was like maybe like September 2020. And point, I felt like I made $1,000,000 just from grossing 10,000 for the month. So it's like, look at where we are now. Like the sky's the limit, and keep going, keep pushing, keep learning. Keep expanding. The areas we started off servicing, we've expanded beyond those areas now. Where we service anywhere from. Not sure if you're familiar with this area, but north of Baltimore to southern Maryland, and then Northern Virginia, which is considered all of this is considered like the Washington D.C. area. But like we were only servicing like a very probably I would say like 45-mile perimeter at first, and now we go as far as like 70 miles north and 70 miles south. So just keep going, and you never know. Like the sky is truly the limit. So I'm excited to see how much more we grow in the future.
As am
um
I.
how
As am I. This
much
is
more
amazing.
revenue we grow now that I'm fully hands on, and I can focus a lot more on building and expanding. It's a great feeling. It's a great feeling to just see the growth in general.
Absolutely. And remind me again, when did you fully leave your 9 to 5?
In May of this year, May 19th was my last day.
My God. 3 years, just 3.5 years
Yeah.
of a 9 to 5 and a full-time business. It's incredible what you can do when you really just set your mind up
Yes.
and do it. Again, I know everybody's life is different and everybody's got different things going on and different circumstances. You got to do what's best for you first so
Hmm.
that you can get to a point where you can choose those priorities in maybe a different way and
Right.
go from there. If you can't afford to do just the business, start the business and only be in the business, that's fine. They're like
Yeah.
yourself. You worked a 9 to 5 and then you came home and the best thing that you said was you did at least one thing a day, whether it was
Hmm.
30 minutes or several hours. That is the biggest thing because you built up that consistency. You built
Yeah.
up that not gonna quit, I'm gonna keep going attitude.
Yeah.
And as long as you did something every day and you learned a little bit more, it just snowball affected into, you know, your wonderful, amazing business that you have now. So, talking more on that, what unique value is your business bringing to your DC market that other cleaning services aren't?
Sure. It's a great question because initially when I started the company, I think this is very important to mention. A lot of people, and I don't, I didn't take offense to it, or I didn't, feel any kind of way, but a lot of people were just kind of like, there's a gazillion cleaning companies in DC. Like, why, would you start that? And there's always that like loaf of bread example that like if you go to the bread aisle in a grocery store, there's like 15 to 20 different brands of bread. And they're all sitting there. So yes, there are a gazillion cleaning companies in this area, and the demand is high enough that if you have, a high rating, you're going to get a ton of customers. But I will say what allows us to stand out, why our customers continue to come back, like our customers refer us to their friends and family, is one, we are a little bit higher than most companies, and customers quickly find out that it's the value that we bring. So like I said, this customer experience that I have created from the moment they contact us, whether it's on our website or they call our phone number, um, their initial interaction with our company is seamless. It's pleasant, it's seamless. Online, they can literally see the price of the cleaning. They can play with different types of cleanings, whether it's a basic cleaning, deep cleaning, moving cleaning. They can play around with the different parameters, the number of bedrooms, square footage, add-ons, and so on. And Booking Koala is going to provide them that price right there. So the transparency is important because people hate to like, have to ask you a million questions before you get to the bottom line of what's the price. Like that's what I really care about, right?
Or a bait and
Um,
switch. They're quoted one thing and
right.
then it's
It's a
completely
different
different.
price,
Right.
right? When it's time for the cleaning, we're like, oh no, it's an extra $100 because your front door didn't open for us or something. You know what I mean? Um, they like that transparency. They already know what exactly they're signing up for and how much it's going to cost beforehand. So that initial interaction is crucial. It has to be easy. It has to be easy to digest. Like they have to be able to understand it, and I feel like our website is very user friendly. So there's no issues there. One. Then it's once, even if they don't initially book with us, we have provided them enough information where they can shop around and make a decision. So there are people that may go to other companies for another quote that may be lower, but then they'll come back to us and say, you know what, I like the fact that you guys have this. And this could be anything. It could be reminders. It could be the fact that they can pay with a credit card. Um, it could be you guys have 200 5-star reviews versus this company that's cheaper, but they only have 3 5-star reviews. You know what I mean? So they can feel the value from the initial interaction. Then, should they decide to book with us, they have that initial confirmation email. They have that email that allows them to set up their account. Hey, welcome, to No More Dust Maid services, change your password, and so on. So they can actually log into their account and see what they just booked. Um, then they have these 2-day and 4-day reminders. So we'll send them a text and an email. Hey, you have this upcoming cleaning on this date. Did you get a chance to check out our how to prepare for your appointment? So I've created a page that lists all the do's and don'ts before your cleaning, during your cleaning, and after your cleaning. Because setting the expectation is crucial in making sure the customer has a good experience. If they don't know what to expect, they're all over the place. They're demanding all these things. Can you clean my front porch? And it's like, no, like that's not included. That's out of our scope of work. So setting that expectation, letting them know what's included in their cleaning, letting them know if they have, a bunch of clutter, consider adding organizing time to your booking. If you have pets, put them away so that the cleaners can get through the entire cleaning without being harassed by a dog or something. Setting that initial expectation. So they have their confirmation emails and texts. They also have like a quick page that tells them what to expect the day of their cleaning. Then we come out and we do the cleaning, and 9 times out of 10, the cleaning goes well. Most of our cleanings go exceptionally well. So now, especially if they're a first time customer, especially if they're a customer that this is the first time they're having a professional cleaning, they are blown away. They're like, "Oh my god, my house is so clean. I love this. Can I sign up for like recurring cleanings?" So after we finish, we try to do a walkthrough with them if they're home. I tell the customers, feel free to point out something if you feel like it's not cleaned as much as you would like. The cleaners are happy to, they're happy to do it right then and there versus them having to come back another day. So they love that part. They love the walkthrough. And then at the end of the day, when we go charge all of our cleanings for the day, they'll get that email in the text asking, how did your cleaning go? Rating. And I now included within the last year, like, if you have a problem, like, please contact us right away. So customers know, like, if there is something you weren't satisfied with, we want to take care of it. Like, we care, we want to make sure you got, the value. We want to make sure that you got what you paid for. So they're able to rate us, or they're able to contact us and go over where there may have been issues. Then after that's done, they can add tip if they'd like. They can do it online, or they can call us and we'll add it for them. And then, like I mentioned, a week later, I'll send out like a quick little thank you card. Thank you for using our services. here's this room spray as a token of our appreciation. So that full experience from beginning to end, to me, is what makes us stand out, because I don't know too many cleaning companies that are doing all of that. A lot of cleaning companies are just focused on quantities. So they just want to clean as many houses as possible and go home. They don't care about follow up. They don't care about saying thank you. They don't care about making it easier for you to book another cleaning. They don't care about that. So the fact that I've created this like kind of like life cycle of like from booking to like the end, I think is what separates us from like most cleaning companies, especially in this area.
And that's huge. What you said there is that a lot of people focus on knocking out as many
Many
as they
cleanings as
can,
possible.
but what you focused on was the entire experience. And I kind of want to compare that a little bit to like
Sure.
a restaurant where if you go to any chain place, again, their numbers, they want to knock out as many
Yeah.
people as possible. Now compare it to a Michelin star restaurant where they've got several month or years waiting lists, and it's
Yes.
because of exactly how you're describing it. It's the entirety of that
Experience.
experience.
Yep.
It's checking in with them before, establishing this is what you should expect when you
Yeah.
come to us, and then all every step of the way, all the motions throughout the whole entire experience, even up until after the fact, is
Yeah.
massive. And that's why you have accomplished an 80% recurring business customer base versus constantly trying to worry about new and new and new and new and new
Exactly.
all the time. Again, you do want new customers, you always want
Right.
more, but if you can lock down 50% or higher in your customer base as recurring, that is massive. Whether it
Yeah.
is residential only or a mix of residential, office, commercial, post construction. But if you can get 50% in recurring and more, you are
You won.
well on track for your
Yeah.
business again. And just to touch back on revenue really quickly,
Sure.
because you mentioned that first month, that 337 that you did in revenue felt like you made a million. Then your first 10K month, 6, 7 months later, again, felt like that million. When did you hit your million? When did you finally hit the total million?
It was in okay, yeah, it was mid-June of this year. Um
And from June till now, you're, I would say,
we're
1.25.
we're at 1.10, 1.10 million. So it's like
Okay,
a million 98, 98,641. Yeah.
amazing, amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, when I hit the 10 million, because at that point I had been monitoring it every single day. When I hit the 10 million, I was like, wow, like it happened. I don't even think I like reacted like at first. I was just like, I see the numbers in Stripe, like that means that we did it. Um and it's just like, wow, like we really did it, and I told a few people, and they were like, "Oh my god, like we need to like celebrate. We need to have a party." And I was just like, "Yeah, like I it
Absolutely.
happened." Yes.
Let's do it.
Happened. Like I'm still like amazed that we hit that value. Especially when like I look at like statistics a lot, and I follow a lot of like entrepreneurs on social media and brands and stuff like that that teach entrepreneurship and whatnot. And the amount of businesses that even gross 1 million is very small.
Yeah.
Um, it's a very small percentage for small businesses. So just knowing that, it was just wow, like I really did it. Like I did it. So like I said, I'm excited to see. I mean, now that I know 100%, not that I didn't know what I was capable of before, but now I guess my confidence is a little more higher than it was before. Now that I know, like what I'm fully capable of. Like, I'm just excited to keep going and keep pushing and keep learning and keep expanding and, possibly teaching others how to go ahead and start their own service-based business.
Absolutely. So could you give like a breakdown year by year? What was first year in total? What was revenue in 2021 or 2020,
Sure.
2021, 2022?
20 ended at 71,000. That sounds crazy considering like we could do that in less than 2 months now. So yeah, 2020 was 71,000, and then 2021, which is still huge because that was the year of the pandemic.
Right.
Um,
And you started the month of the pandemic with your first booking.
yes. Um, 2021 was 285,000. So yeah, we went from 71 to 285. It's more than doubling that annual income. And then let's see what 2022 looked like. 2022 ended in 423,000. So that was last year. We ended up 423,000.
Wow. Amazing stuff. Amazing. So what challenges? Let's go into that. Everybody's
Oof.
got them. What are some of the biggest ones you face as a business owner, and what was your way to overcome them?
Sure. So I would say initially, like when cleanings didn't go well, that was hard for me. Um, especially like as a business owner, when you're growing your business from scratch, it's your baby. Like you want everything to be perfect, and that's just not. It's just not realistic. So there were times where cleanings just did not go well, whether the cleaner dropped the ball or the customer was just out of their mind, or maybe the cleaner got into an argument with the customer. Like all types of things have happened. I would beat myself up so bad. It wasn't a good feeling, and I the entire week I would be down about it. And I had to quickly teach myself that one, every cleaning is not going to be perfect. There's going to be times where they just don't go well. It's really how you handle the situation after the fact. So I focused more on, problem re- problem resolution, teaching my cleaners what to do and what not to do in certain scenarios. If you enter the home and you realize it needs way more than what was booked, like do not start working. Like communicate that back to us so we can have a conversation with the customer. I had to come up with all of these, like, if this happens, handle it this way. If this happens, this is how you handle it. If this happens, this is how you handle it. So that we had the things in place we needed for when those situations did come up, we knew exactly how to address it. So that comes with experience. Like you don't know that initially. And I had to teach myself that. I had to teach my staff that. And now I would say we probably have a problem once in a blue moon, because the cleaners know what to do, my assistant knows what to do, and if I see something spiraling in the wrong direction, I am immediately try to take over and solve the problem. So that was one of my biggest challenges at the beginning. I don't really have those issues now. My biggest challenge now is staffing. Um,
And that's
recruit
that's for provider your workers for in the field.
Both correct. So
Okay.
both the providers and virtual assistants. Um, so I've
So how
had
many how many office staff do you have, and then
right,
how many?
sure. No, go ahead.
Oh, yeah,
How
how
many
many
office
with the
staff and then
office staff, and then are you doing the independent contractor route or employee route? And then how many of those?
independent contractor? Sure.
Okay.
So right now I only have one virtual assistant. I had two for a while, and it was just a lot of issues that I was experiencing. So I ended up letting one go. I hired a new one, and then she ended up having to go because she had some issues that she was taking care of. So now I just have one that I focus on making the best VA possible. Um, it's like once I realize if I could just put all my energy into teaching her everything she needs to know, then I don't even need to consider a second one at the moment. Um, so yeah, I have one virtual assistant who has been with me since November of last year. And then for my providers, I have 10 teams right now. Um, and some of them are working like full time, like 6 days a week, and some of them may work like 2 to 3 days a week. But we have 10 teams right now. One is like a strictly carpet cleaning team. Some of them only service certain areas. And then I have like a core of like 5 teams that are like the ones that are working the most. But yeah, I have about 10 teams, and I'm constantly getting requests for more teams. That was another interesting shift. I feel like I spent my first year looking for cleaners, and now cleaners just come to me. I haven't had to like seek cleaners in a very long time. I don't know if someone wrote our phone number on a bathroom wall or something, but like cleaners are coming to me on an ongoing basis. And, I have a whole hiring process for them as well. But yeah, I have 10 teams and then one virtual assistant. And I think we're good at the moment.
And those are teams of two,
Say it
or
again.
teams of two strictly, or teams of
Yeah, teams of two.
three?
Some of them have teams of two, some of them have three. Sometimes there are like two of my teams that have their own cleaning company. So they may have like 2 to 3 teams under them. But I don't dictate like who they use. It's just once I assign it to them, it's up to them to get the job done.
So you have 20
Um,
plus providers,
yes.
and managing
I know.
all
Sounds
that.
crazy.
Are you, so I guess then what is your virtual assistant's role? What are they mainly handling, and then what are you handling on the opposite to them?
Sure. So our virtual assistant, she answers all of the incoming customer calls. We still get a good amount of people that prefer to book over the phone, mainly because sometimes they just have questions or they're just not tech savvy, so they
Sure.
don't want to use the website. So she answers all of our incoming calls, inquiries from both new customers and recurring customers. She does all of the follow ups for new customers. I have her text them the next day to see how everything went. If there are any issues, she'll go ahead and work with them and the cleaners to schedule like a reclean. She also is responsible for getting like ETAs, estimated time of arrivals for from the teams to relate to the customer. So even though the customer may book like say 8 to 10 window, we like to still tell them like your team is expected to arrive around 8:30. They love that for whatever reason, and if we don't send it to them, they will be sure to call and ask when is the team going to arrive. So that's how I included a lot of things in our customer experience was based on customer feedback. Like customers need to know when you're coming. And I'm like, never mind the fact that like if I schedule like a cable installation, they'll give me a window from like 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And I just gotta deal with it. But our customers, they want to know like down to the minute when the cleaners are arriving. So we try our best to give them like a text saying, the cleaners are gonna arrive by 8:30. So she handles all of that as well. If there are issues, she'll follow up with the customer to find out, what the problems were, what areas may have been missed, and she is responsible for coming up with some type of solution. Sometimes the customers, oh, I cleaned it myself already. We'll just send them like a coupon or something. So she's responsible for taking care of that as well. Um, trying to think of what other some stuff requires like some customers want to speak to somebody and they want to get a better understanding of everything we offer and how everything works. She'll take care of that as well. We also have our online chat bot talk. She'll respond to those inquiries. Yelp leads, we get inquiries on Yelp. She responds to all of the platforms for people who are asking for price quotes or looking to set up a cleaning. So she's handling all of like the administrative stuff. As far as what I take care of, I'm more so looking at the schedule, making sure a lot of our teams like they need at least 2 jobs a day to make it meaningful for them or whatever.
Sure.
Although otherwise they can't just do one. So I'll kind of just go through the schedule every day, every week, making sure everyone's assigned to the proper teams. A lot of customers have their set team they want to work with. So I'll go through and make sure that's correct. I'll go through the notes to make sure there's nothing crazy in the notes. Sometimes customers just have requests, and I'm like, that's out of our scope of work. So I'm now focusing on contracts, federal contracts, local state government contracts. So I spend a significant amount of time like sifting through online opportunities for that. I also, if there are situations where I just know my virtual assistant may not be capable of addressing it, I'll step in and have a conversation with the customer. There's a lot of one of the things that I learned because there's a lot of like majority of my cleaners are Hispanic women, and my virtual assistant is from Nigeria. So just understanding the cultural differences between how she communicates, how my cleaners communicate, and then how my American customers communicate is huge. So sometimes I have to step in and talk to the customer to calm them down, but then also explain to like my virtual assistant like why we should have handled it this way versus that way, and what people expect. That's very important. Like the cultural differences is not anything that anyone could have prepared me for. But I had to learn along the way. And me coming from an immigrant background kind of helped with my cleaners. And just kind of sometimes customers like we have hourly services where customers may just need certain areas of the house book, and they put all of these insane instructions, and I'm like, okay, how can I simplify this? Because this cleaner is going to be so confused when they get to your house.
And
So
stress.
just me, yes, me stepping in and taking what this American person said and translating it in a way that I know my Hispanic cleaners will understand is crucial. Somebody's like, oh, dust the wainscoting. And I'm like, they're not gonna know what that is. So it's
Yeah.
like, who are you talking to? Like, who do you think is cleaning your house? So just I a lot of times have to review the notes to just make sure they're simplified and straightforward, and that the customer is not requesting things out of scope. Because sometimes the cleaners they just want to do the best that they can. They may do stuff, and I'm like, no, we don't clean that. Like that's
Right.
a liability. So that's primarily my role is like to step in if there's any issues, and then just to monitor from like a more leadership perspective and make sure like our scheduling is intact. My virtual assistant doesn't really have to handle scheduling at all because she doesn't really know where the cleaners live, like
Sure.
as far as like distances and all that, being that she doesn't live here. So I'll usually take care of that.
There's, I mean, so much information that you just gave. And I would say the way you handle yourself and your business now and how smoothly things, at least to me, seem like they operate is because
Hands
of
down.
going back to that foundation that you built of the consistency and the learning to adapt. Like,
Mhm.
just because you set it up one day and you're like, okay, these are my policies and terms,
Right,
doesn't mean you don't have to change them or you have to stick with them.
right,
And that's
right,
why you've become so successful, is that you have learned that over time things change and it might not be the best way the first time around. So again, huge where you learned everything and now you can
implementing it.
teach others and let everybody flourish in their respective spaces and their jobs. Your virtual assistant, you're teaching her, hey,
Mhm.
that phone call you did was good, but we could have done it a little better. Like this, next time, let's go this route.
Yeah,
Or you don't put on unnecessary tasks on her, like you said, scheduling, because she's overseas. She doesn't know where everybody
things
lives.
are located.
So
Yeah.
putting a cleaner who lives on the northwest or east side or north side and then sticking 4 or 5 bookings in one day all the way 70 miles on the
Right, right.
southern side, like it just doesn't make sense. So that's why you handle that,
Yeah.
and not offloading everything onto them just so you could focus on marketing and growth.
Yeah.
It's it's give and take with everybody, just like you have it with your providers and your cleaners, where, like you said, hey, we don't clean that. It's fine that you did it this one time. Just
Yeah.
know for next time. So one, you're not wasting time and basically getting taken advantage of, where the customer clearly saw that we don't do that, but they
Yeah.
kind of finagled their way in and got you to do it anyways,
Yep.
which
And they'll try it.
they will try it. And again, like you said, you always have to learn with everything. And what I'm trying to get here with that is, a customer can book your service and see the set price of what you offer. But then you could also put subject to change
Mhm.
if they were not truthful in what they input on the booking form. If they
Yep.
said they didn't have pets, but you come over or your cleaner comes over and now they have 4 German Shepherds and 3 cats who shed
Right. Every
unbelievably everywhere. So now that becomes a deep clean, and the price
Yep.
goes up. So it just building those foundational blocks where you can learn and you can adapt, and then you could take that and transition it to all the other pieces. It just reiterates how you've been able to get to this 7-figure
This point.
business, and all while majority of the time still working a full-time job,
Yeah.
and no business partner. It's
Yeah.
just you. So nobody else to kind of rely on, no partner to rely on and be like, here's half the workload, or I'll take care of this, you take care of that. It's no,
Yeah.
it's you and only you, and tremendous things that you have been able to do. And what are your strategies that you do to attract and retain? Well, I guess we know how you've retained your customers with
Yeah.
everything that you do from A to Z, beginning to end. But how are you attracting them? What are some successful marketing strategies that you have implemented and use?
Sure. So yeah, I use Google. I use regular Google ads. A bulk of our customers come from Google. People go online, they search, cleaning company near me, maid service near me, whatever town they're in. If my company services that zip code, I'm gonna show up in the results. And I have a SEO team that I got back in I want to say maybe November 2021. So I've had them for over a year, and I've definitely noticed the difference in like our organic leads. I've pulled back on marketing spend like tremendously. And so a lot of our customers are going online, Googling us, and we're ranking pretty high. So, and then they see the amount of reviews we have. So, people will typically pick a company that has over 200 reviews versus a company that may only have like 3 reviews. So I think that helps us a lot, especially because most of our reviews are 5 star. We have a couple 4, 3, 2, 1. It is what it is, but most of our reviews are 5 star. So yeah, so I would say Google brings a lot of our customers, and our SEO has us ranking pretty high. I also post a lot on social media, both Facebook and Instagram. Now I'm kind of like a content pro, so I create a ton of content. I have my teams for new customers; they have to take before and after photos, just for proof of work, and in case the customer accuses us of breaking stuff. I always have them do that. It comes in handy for credit card disputes. I don't have them do it for recurring customers because we have that trusted relationship
Sure.
established. So if they say something was broke or something wasn't done, I trust that they're telling the truth. Um, so yeah, so I'll have a lot of content on our social media. I'll run some Facebook ads that people can see our work before and after. I think seeing the work is very important and makes and allows people to make a decision on if they want to use us or not. So if I'm able to show that, we're working every day, I have enough content where I can schedule 10 days worth of social media posts. Um, People being able to see that a lot of our when you book online or if my assistant books you over the phone, there is a question that asks like, how did you find out about us? And they'll say Instagram or they'll say Facebook or Google. So those are primarily where I'm getting most of my customers from is social media and our Google ads. I post occasionally on Nextdoor app, which is like a community neighborhood app. A lot of our customers go in there and tell others. Yeah, I just used this cleaning company and they were great. Here's their phone number. So a lot of word of mouth. I post on my own social media page. So a lot of my friends or they would recommend their friends who may live in this area. So word of mouth has always been, king for us. That I would say those are primarily the areas. I used to use a lot of Google local service ads that I told you we canceled because it just became too expensive and the leads were just awful. Now we're ranking on Yelp, so we get tons of inquiries from Yelp every day, and my assistant is responsible for trying to close those leads out. Um, their Yelp is there. Those customers are pretty straightforward. They're like, we've read everything about you. We've seen your website. Like, just sign us up for a cleaning. So yeah, I would say primarily Google, social media, Yelp is where most of our leads come from, and then word of mouth.
One of the interviews I did, I believe it was with Javier, he kind of said that he doesn't really have any social profiles, and I kind of explained like, well, it's okay if you don't, but here's
Hmm.
why you definitely should. Because if you have a customer who's going to Google your business name and you have two places that pop up, whether it's your business or three, call it your business, your website is one, a Yelp page is another, and
Hmm.
then Facebook is the third. You want, you would think that the customer would be like, mm, you don't know because now another cleaning service is taking up the rest of that first page.
Hmm.
Google's not just
Hmm.
going to cut off the first page
Right.
because you don't have more stuff to show. No, they're going to keep filling it with whatever's closest to that keyword.
Hmm.
So, as many of those free profiles, especially social media, again, you don't have to post every single day. You could post once a week or reshare content once a week just to show that it's active. But the more profiles that your business name can
Shows up.
show on the first, at least the first full page of Google, if you could get it to the second page and beyond, it's massive because then it just
It's
shows
huge.
the authority that you have and that you're not just some potential pop-up scam business that's going to
Yes.
take their
Yes.
money and run. It shows that you're established, that you're serious, that there's somebody behind this who cares and who's putting in the time, effort, and their own money to keep this thing going. So
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And that's the thing is because if you'll Google like a cleaning company near me, and then if we come up, there are a lot of customers that take it to the next step. They'll copy and paste our name and then put that into Google. And we have a ton of stuff. I mean, I've done articles for the Washington Post, Redfin. I make sure I respond to any type of press inquiry. We now do 2 cleanings a month for cancer patients through Cleaning for a Reason, which is like a nonprofit organization. So you're going to have like 3 pages of results for No More Dust Maid services. And that was something that like the SEO team had kind of taught me, like the more pages you have, whether we're showing up on blogs, through backlinks or whatever the case may be, the more pages where we have information, even learning about the owner is very important to a lot of people. That was huge for us. And I think that also plays a huge role in the amount of customers we get from Google because they do see that we're established. They can see, I think Google will even show you like how long we've been open for, like 3+ years or something. And then seeing all the articles we've been involved with, it's like, yeah, this is a legit company. They're not going to scam me. They're not going to, use my credit card in a fraudulent manner. That those things are important, and I feel like if you don't focus on building that online presence, then you're probably only but going to go but so far.
You could learn SEO yourself. There's definitely, it takes time. It's not something quick like paid
Yeah.
ads, but if you learn it yourself, you will save so much money in the long term because once you are ranked for those certain keywords and you have, like you said, 3 pages full of your business,
Hmm.
it is by far, I would say, one of the top 3 best marketing strategies to have
Absolutely.
because it's free. You're not, it
Paying
took
for any,
money to
yeah,
get there and get
yeah,
ranked, but once you're there, it's kind of just like more maintenance of, okay, I I don't want to get knocked out of like the first 3 spots for
right, right.
Maid services in DC, um, versus you're at the hands and the mercy of all these social platforms where where they're charging paid ads, face Meta, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, or
Hmm.
Google and Google ads. The more competition, the more now you're paying per lead, and it can, when you're first starting out, it can blow out your whole budget,
Yep.
and you can go belly up very quickly. Um,
Yes.
so again, that's why I state so much that when you first start, don't think that you need to dump all your money into paid ads right away. It's
Yeah.
word of mouth and free groups, especially for if you have saved up several thousands of
Hmm.
dollars to put into the business, that's different. That's completely different. But
Right, right, right.
I'm talking more so for the people who don't have a ton of money saved up and to spend on marketing, but they want to get the business going.
Yeah.
There's a ton of different ways to do it, and the best way to learn is go on YouTube and search these videos for
For
free.
teaching yourself. Yeah.
And then when you start getting revenue, you could buy courses and you could learn from other people. There's so much free information. Twitter has
Yeah.
blown up in the last, I'd say, especially 12 months
For
for the
information. Yeah.
home cleaning services industry and just the home services industry in whole, where people are helping and you can learn on there. Again, you can buy courses from certain people as well, but YouTube is massive to learn for free, and
Yeah.
just Googling, because I see so many people, well, how do I get started? How do I get started?
Right, right.
Instead of posting that on social media to get somebody who already started it, you're gonna
Yeah.
kind of irritate them and be they're gonna be like, instead of asking me, ask Google.
Yeah.
How do I market my cleaning service for cheap or for free?
Right.
Or go to YouTube, and you may not like one person who teaches you things. That's fine. Just don't stop learning. Don't
Yeah,
stop getting
utilize those free resources. That's
absolutely.
absolutely correct. Because I posted a lot on Nextdoor during my first year. Like Nextdoor allows you to have your own business page and create posts for free. Um, I would just advertise our services. Hey, looking for, and the thing is, people go to Nextdoor looking for cleaning companies. So I would just say, hey, this is our website. Give us a call between 9 to 5, Monday through Saturday, at this phone number, and we would get leads from there, and that's completely free. Same thing with Google My Business. They moved it over to like Google Maps now or something, but Google My Business allows you to create free posts, free sale posts, offers. If you have kind of like a special going on, you can create those for free. It's no cost. So it's like, yeah, definitely utilize those free resources, and you can definitely get customers from that without having to spend a dime.
And again, it depends on where you live in the
Yeah.
world, because in Chicago, Yelp might be great. but in DC, Yelp might not
Yes.
be the number one marketing platform, or
Hmm.
vice versa. So where your business is located
Is
doesn't
important.
necessarily mean that that marketing strategy is working for somebody else in Florida, that it's going to work for you in Seattle, you know?
Yeah.
So again, learning and adapting to where customers come in, because if you try and start a business and use Nextdoor, for example,
Hmm.
it might not work. And you're going to be like, well, you know, Poiette told me that she got so much business from it and
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
working for me. But again, that's maybe because you're in Los Angeles, or
Yeah.
wherever it may be. It just might be that that certain marketing channel isn't utilized as much as it is in a different area.
And I'm glad you said that. That is very crucial because I find, especially in this day and age where people want quick money, they want to get rich quickly and they want to build businesses, quickly. Um, they want you to just write down everything you did and they're going to go do the same thing and
Right.
think that they're going to get the
Right.
same results. And it's not, that's not how it works. Because I've paid for Bark before and that never ever worked for us. Thumbtack never worked for us. Angie's List never worked for us. Home Advisor never worked for us. Like I've tried it all. And you have to kind of play around with different things to see, you know, what works and what doesn't work, and knowing your target audience and what they use. And that's why Facebook ads were like a big thing for us because Facebook ads allows you to pick like their habits. Like, what do these people do for a living? Like, where do they hang out? What do they enjoy? Do they enjoy shopping? Do they enjoy sailing? Do they use Uber? You know what I mean? Like Facebook ads allows you to add in all of those like behaviors and hobbies. Cause I knew kind of what my target audience looked like. And then when I spoke to like an ad specialist, they're like, oh, okay, well then you can include this, then that other. So now I know my ads and my money spend are going to people that actually book cleaning services.
Right.
And that may be different from someone who maybe lives in Oklahoma. Maybe their target audience that books cleanings does not do the things that we do in DC. You know what I mean? Income was a huge thing. Like this area, the income is pretty high. So I can charge higher prices. If I had a cleaning company saying like Orlando, Florida, or something, which may have a lower cost of living, lower income, I probably wouldn't be able to charge the prices that we charge here in the DC area.
Absolutely.
But it's one of those things you have to learn. You have to teach yourself, you have to find out, you have to dig, you have to ask questions, research. All of that is required. So yeah, I can write down verbatim what I did to start my business, but that does not mean if you take all of those steps and you go do the same thing that you're going to get the same outcome as me.
100%. It's like Joey and Nicole said in another interview, it's not a sprint business. Like you said, it's not a get
Mm-mm,
rich quick scheme.
mm-mm.
This is, if you are trying to get into this business to scheme and get rich quick, let's say this, you can get rich quick if
Yeah,
you put in all your blood, sweat, and tears,
yeah.
and you will quickly realize that it won't end up being a scam, because scams are as little time as possible with as
Yeah,
much money as possible. That's not this business.
yeah.
Absolutely not. And you kind of touched on something that I resonate really a lot with, is how when I started the podcast and these interviews, I was like thinking to myself right before, I'm like, well, I feel like the content is just going to be so repetitive, where all these business owners are going to say the same thing. You know, I do paid
Mhm.
ads and this works for me, and I do that. And it's just going to be like, I'm going to be done with this very quickly. But I learned within the first 5 interviews that
Everyone's story is different.
they were all different. And it's because,
Yeah.
mainly it's because of how, one, you want to run the business, if you want to
Mhm.
be more hands on or more hands off. Two, where you live and where the business is in relation to others. Like, Seattle, like the business in Seattle versus the business in DC,
Mhm.
or Fort Lauderdale versus Chicago.
Yeah.
It's every little thing that you do within your business kind of plays a huge role in factor of differentiating yourself from other cleaning services.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody might think, oh, these 10 people, they all have a cleaning service. It's all the same.
Mhm.
No, person A
Not.
can be can be living in Italy and running a cleaning
Yeah.
service in Chicago. Person B can be, they just started their cleaning service in Miami and they're the business owner and the cleaner.
Yeah.
Person C can be yourself, where you live and work, own the business in the same area, but you have a virtual assistant and you have
Yeah.
providers doing it. Person D can have employees and do it as an employee model versus the contract.
Mhm.
So it's just, it all depends on how you want to structure
To
the
run your
business. And I
business.
feel like
Yeah.
that's what you kind of have to ask yourself first when you're getting started is, how do I want this to end up? How do I want
Mhm.
to start this? And again, you might change. You might be like, you know what? I want to be as hands off as possible, as quick as possible. But again, you understand that you have to learn. So you're going to learn until you can get to that point. But you might
Yep.
quickly change that and be like, I actually love doing this. I don't
Yeah.
want to be hands off. I want to be hands on. And it just kind of all goes to show that every single person is different. So if somebody's watching this and they're thinking, well, I'm just going to be another cleaning service in a whole industry that's saturated, no, it's
No.
point blank no, because
Yeah.
a customer can try and, let's say I'll say I don't have a cleaning service, but if I did and somebody wanted to book, and for this example, I'm in DC with
Mhm.
comparing yours. If somebody wanted to book with me and they didn't like it, they might go to Poiette and be like, "This is my one and done. I'm done
Yeah.
here." And vice versa. Someone might have tried her service, didn't like it, and they come to me and they love it. So it's not just because one is there, you should be scared to start, because the fear
Yeah.
will be there and competition will always be there, but it's just how much time and effort are you willing to put in to
Wanna put
learn
in.
and
Yep.
and and keep going. So I feel like we keep hammering that
Absolutely.
down, but I
Yeah.
feel like you're the best example for this. It's truly, I love every interview I've done with everybody else and all the interviews that are to come. But I'll say that this is the one that I've kind of been searching for since the beginning, where it's like,
Oh, I'm glad.
where is the person who is going to tell me that they bootstrap the absolute hell out of this with no money and just turn it into $1 million business as fast as possible? And it could almost be safe to say that if you didn't have the 9 to 5, or if you left the 9 to 5 in the first
Yeah.
year, you probably could have hit the $1 million in half the time,
Sooner. Yep.
or
Much
way
sooner.
sooner, or maybe not half, but a year sooner,
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, I'm happy to hear that, but no, I agree 100%. Like, everyone's story is different, and depending on how you want to run your company, you can definitely stand out. We occasionally have customers that say, we're going to go try to find a cheaper service, and then they come back because maybe they did find a cheaper service, but it wasn't the same experience and that they come to know with us. So, yeah, you can really implement any unique thing that you want in your business. You could do things your way. You don't have to do things the way everyone else is doing it. And create the type of company that you want to run, and create the type of customers that you want to have, and it could be just as successful as someone who may not be doing the things that you're doing. But yeah, I appreciate that. I'm glad that this interview gave you like something different to talk about, and just better understanding of how all of us could be completely different and have different stories. I think that's awesome.
100%. And I will, if anybody asks, like, who should I watch? Watch everybody, watch every interview,
Yeah,
because that brings the whole point of what we're talking about is each and every business owner is different, and
different.
it's
Yeah.
gonna keep being different. But I feel like we're hammering down that point the most, and I know I touch it in every interview, but it just this experience is showing how much it is true to that sentiment. And
Yes.
again, massive props to you because it's just
Thank you, thank you.
it's huge.
I kept seeing the like headlines for like each different interview you guys did, like coming in my inbox, and then I think like on like the Facebook business page for Booking Koala. And I think somebody posted, and I kept wondering to myself, like, man, how do I get one of those interviews? Because I want to talk about this journey. And it's like, you know, oh, yeah, my friends care about me, but, like, they don't wanna be listening to how I built a cleaning company every day, like, that's just not interesting information. So, I wanna talk about this, and tell someone, and then I think someone in the Booking Koala group actually asked, like, "How do I report my success story?" And they responded with, like, your name and email, and I was like, "I'm gonna email him." So,
And I'm glad you
thank
did.
you for the opportunity.
Of
Thank you for
course.
the opportunity. Yeah, I'm happy to talk about it. Anyone who asks, I'm always like happy to talk about it because I just, I want more people to feel like they can do things. Life is not limited to just a 9 to 5 job, no matter how much it's paying you. Like people think I'm crazy for leaving my job. Like, we were making so much money and it's just like I had no control over my schedule. Like even if I want to go see my family for Christmas, it's like I have to ask this person for permission. And then depending on how they feel, they may say no. I'm like, that's just not the life I envision for myself.
Right.
And now with this business, I can be in St. Martin, I could be at home visiting my parents in New York, and I can do everything from my phone. You know what I mean? So I want people to know what my experience was like and how I got to this point because I think it's important that especially as many people transition out of the workforce for whatever reason, that they have options. They just have to take it seriously.
And you're the prime example of, what America is all about, of like a melting pot. Your parents came from a different country,
Mhm.
and you have become a successful business owner by watching a successful business owner in your
Yep.
mother, and from your dad learning the ins and outs of just becoming a great person and education first and always
Yeah.
learning. It's that's what that's what it's all about. It's
Yes.
not one person is the end all be all of the perfectness. The two words I'll always reiterate: no such thing as perfect and no such thing as normal. Because
Yeah. That's true.
everybody's vision of that is
Different.
always going to be different. And I hate when somebody will say, "Oh, that's perfect," or "that's normal." It's just
There's
no,
no
there's no
such thing.
such
Yeah.
thing, because somebody else's normal is different than yours, and somebody else's perfect
Yeah.
is different than yours.
Absolutely.
A little bit more towards financial management and planning in the
Sure.
business. I know you said about 6 months ago or maybe a year ago you hired a bookkeeper, but up until that point, and even beyond till now, how do you manage that, and how did you manage it?
Sure. So I would say prior to me hiring a bookkeeper, I just kind of maintained like a spreadsheet that was like, had multiple tabs. I would have like my income listed where I would track all of my customers and the bookings. Then I would have all my another tab with like all of my payments to my cleaners to date and how I paid them. And then like another tab with all of my like expenses, whether they were like recurring or like one-time expenses, so that I can track all of this. So by the end of the year, I can kind of put together like a profit and loss sheet and submit that to my accountant. So I had an accountant that was doing my taxes, but I was still doing like my month to month bookkeeping. So as far as financial management, I didn't even really spend much of the money that I made. I would say like the first probably not up until last year is when I really started spending money and I purchased a vehicle under my business. So I used all of like the profit I had made to use as a down payment. But prior to that, I wasn't, because I had a job, I didn't really have to spend the money that I made with the business. And occasionally, you kind of take L's where you have to give refunds, or I may have to pay another team because previous team was a disaster or something like that. So, I've lost a little money here and there, but I didn't really spend any profit till like October of last year. And that's when I purchased my car, and then randomly, a friend of mine who was a CPA mentioned that she had started this business and she was doing bookkeeping for small businesses. And I was like, I need that. 'Cause I'm like, the more we grow, the more like transactions I have to like stay on top of. And I'm like, I would love to just delegate that to someone else. So she took over and she got me all the way together in QuickBooks. Like, it's amazing now, everything I could see. Because even though I was kind of maintain a spreadsheet. Like, I didn't really know my numbers off the top of my head. It was something I would have to constantly go back to find out stuff. And now with how she has set me up and just reconciling my transactions every month, and now I know like what tax deductions I qualify for and how to navigate different spending. It's been life changing to have a bookkeeper. So now, like, still, I don't, well, now I pay myself. So that's like my money to to take care of my personal expenses. But for the most part, like any profit I make, it just sits there for the most part. In the case that, like, when I do eventually am able to solidify some government contracts, and I'll have to buy equipment and stuff like that, then I'll be able to use that money to purchase what I need. But financially, it's been fairly easy to manage,
What about
especially.
tracking? Were you just using Booking Koala and QuickBooks, or even before you had
Yeah,
a software, were you using like Google Sheets or something?
yeah, prior to me getting the bookkeeper who we now use Intuit QuickBooks, that tracks everything. So, like, all of my feed into that shows everything. It syncs with Booking Koala, Stripe, all of my bank accounts, credit cards, and so on. Prior to that, I myself was just using regular Microsoft Excel. Um, just a spreadsheet. I would have like labeled it by the year, 2021 or 2022, and I would have it organized by tab. And then I would have like the first tab would be like my actual profit and loss sheet. And then the other tabs would be like my expenses and my income that I was just tracking on my own using, standard Excel formulas, like sum of this row and then subtract from this row to come up with like the total profit or something like that. So yeah, and it was, to me, it was easier then because things were just kind of on a smaller scale. But once you talk about like hiring virtual assistants and SEO team and all of these monthly expenses you have, insurance. Now that I pay myself as a W-2 employee, I had to get like workers' comp and unemployment insurance, all these expenses that I wasn't used to tracking before that now we do have to track. So the timing was perfect. Like me implementing me adding a bookkeeper and then me also taking on additional expenses, it kind of worked. It worked in sync with the timing and having to track it. So now I've done away with my little spreadsheet and I have like a full blown like QuickBooks operations that I can see. I can run my payroll for myself. I can issue my 1099s to my contractors in January of each year, and it automatically pulls the total amount that I've paid them. It's perfect.
How big of a shock is it going from just looking back that you were in Microsoft Excel, basically Google Sheets, into now being super organized and being like, okay, I could see it here, I could see that there. And
Yeah, yeah.
can you
It's
imagine, can you just imagine
just
having all this stuff that you have to track, but in a Google Sheet or Microsoft Excel?
it's crazy because even thinking back, like grossing like over $400,000 last year, like to just be using a Google sheet, I mean a Microsoft Excel sheet sounds crazy. So it's like it also allowed me to see like this is a big operation you have going on. Like
Yeah.
it need it needs, and then I was able to see things like how much I was paying in strike fees because that's something that I wasn't really tracking before. The amount that I was paying in strike fees the amount that I was paying in Google local service ads, I'm like, I got to get rid of this. You know what I mean? Just seeing the big picture, like this is how much I was spending, shipping, customer thank you cards and the room spray. Like, okay, maybe I need to find like a lower cost courier for these. It kind of allowed me to make a lot of business decisions, looking at how much I was spending in different areas. So that's also crucial to like why getting a bookkeeper, or if you have that skill set, go for it. But getting a bookkeeper was is crucial for any business, in my opinion, if you're bringing in a lot of income and you have a lot of transactions and a lot of staff that you're paying.
Especially, well, the biggest thing is when it comes to paying Uncle Sam. If
Yes.
you're
Oh, yes.
tracking things in a Google sheet and you mess something up, it could go from owing them a few $1,000s to tens of thousands of dollars,
Yes. Yes.
and kind of shooting yourself in the foot in the long term. So,
Yes.
not saying that you got to go pay the top of the line software to track your stuff when you're first starting. No, but just incrementally increasing your knowledge of when things start to evolve and you start adding more moving
Hmm.
pieces. It's good to just stay on top of it versus giving yourself like a headache later on, being like, oh my god, I have all this
Yeah.
stuff going on now, I need a software so that I don't screw myself up. And time slips away from people, and you kind of realize later on, just because you might be so focused on growth and handling business stuff, that that might slip away from you, which is fine, and
Yeah.
it will happen. But if you could just stay cognizant of that, and just and know that with growth, kind of grow your expertise on management, and whether it's
Hmm.
financial management or time management, it's huge, because Uncle Sam is always going to come knocking for his, regardless if you have it or not. So
Yeah.
make sure
And
you're covered.
it's funny you say that because I actually, what made me switch to, I eventually switched to being taxed as an S corp, and how I started paying myself this year is because 2022, I ended up paying like having to pay like $13,000 in taxes because we had made so much money. I think 2021 was a year I had made like maybe $280,000, and I didn't have anything to deduct. And that was another thing that I had to learn. Like when you're a business, like you need to come up with some deductions. Otherwise, you're going to be paying back a ton in taxes. And when my accountant told me how much I would owe, I was like, there's no deductions you can like come up with, like figure it out. And he was like, no, you already have like all of the like legal ones. I'm not going to do anything illegal that's going to
Right.
like, cause you issues in the long run. And he was like, you need to plan at the beginning of, you can't just try to find deductions when it's time to file your taxes. Like you need to carry yourself throughout the year with certain things. So that's why last year I purchased my car under my business. I switched to the S corp, as being taxed. So like me paying myself, I'm going to be taxed at a lower rate now. And now I have my deduction for my car, and then it's like all types of things that I had to learn, that this will help me in the long run. Now that we're grossing so much money every year, you have to like put things in place so that you can deduct these things come tax prep time. Because I didn't know that initially. I'm just like, oh, I made all this money, and it's like, oh, well, you owe us $13,000, and I'm like,
Right.
what? So now this year, well, this upcoming tax year, I won't be in that same position. Hopefully, they'll be giving me money back, because now with my bookkeeper and my accountant, and we've learned everything that I need to put in place to have like some nice deductions.
And it, again, it goes to show that you adapted and you learned, and you went back. You thought you did it right in the
Yeah,
beginning and structured it the right way, which again at the time you did, but now as you evolve, you
gonna
realize
make some changes.
got to make some changes, and you pulled the
Hmm.
trigger and you did it so that you can be successful going forward. I know there's a story with uh, Phil and King of Maids. When they first started, they spoke to a an accountant who was not well versed, let's just say, and he, long story short, told them about like the way they collected tax was they basically didn't have to in a certain state
Oh.
or something.
Mhm. Mhm, mhm.
Then they got penalized for 70 plus $1,000 and they had
Oh,
to pay that back because they didn't collect it. So that was a huge thing that they learned.
right. Oh my
And
god,
again,
yeah.
it's all about knowing the right questions to ask
Yeah,
and not just going to the first person who tells you, "Oh, okay, I'm an accountant or I'm a bookkeeper," or again, like the marketing. Just because they say they're an expert, you need to know yourself what
yeah.
questions you need
Yep,
to ask.
yep,
And again,
absolutely.
if things change down the line, you can change with them, and it's not do or die in the moment.
Yeah,
It's there's ways to adapt and change that.
yep.
How are you prioritizing and managing your time now as a business owner where you don't have the 9 to 5? You have more time freed up.
Yeah. Um, it's time management is still something I struggle with. I still feel like I'm working every day. On Sundays when we're closed, that's the only day I get to myself. I usually have my phone on do not disturb because I'm like, this is the only day I get to sleep in. I don't have to, I have all of our, if someone calls or texts us, it has like an automated, response letting them know that we'll respond back to them when we open the next day. I would like to get to a point where I can say like I just work on my business maybe every day from 9 to 5, and then after that, my time is my time, but it does not work that way running a business. Some days are less hectic than other days, and I feel like I can have a little more time to focus on myself or take care of, things for myself. Some days are very busy that it's just I'm worn out. And it's like by the time business closes at 5 p.m., I have all of these, maybe marketing emails I want to draft to schedule to send out for the rest of the month or something like that, or some social media content that I want to create. I still have to get it done.
Sure.
The reality is no one else is going to do it for me. So I still work pretty heavily, like Monday through Saturday, like 10 to 12-hour days. And it's not every day. Like I said, some days are slow where I may just like decide on a Friday, I'm just gonna go have margaritas today and that's it. Um, but for the most part, I'm working 10-hour days. And then whether it's overseeing my virtual assistant, overseeing my cleaners, doing some, background work, organizing things, marketing, creating content and so on, I'm still working like 6 days a week. So
But
there's this like
does it feel like work? I mean, it is work, but
it
does it feel
yeah,
like work?
yeah,
Is it enjoyable at least?
it doesn't that's a good question. It doesn't feel like work. It feels like something I'm doing for myself. So even though I may be working, 10-hour days, I can, go drop my friend at the doctor's office and sit in my car and create content from my phone. You know what I mean? I'm not like restricted to sitting in a computer at a computer for 8 hours every day. If I decide I don't want to do any work this week, I'm under the weather or I'm sad or something, I can technically do that. So it's good in a sense where it allows me flexibility to kind of adjust my days based on what's going on. Um, just, and I take vacations every now and then, and luckily my assistant holds it down for us. I feel I because I don't want people to think that like, oh, because you own your own business, like you could just do whatever you want whenever you want. Like I still work a lot. I just have more flexibility to work in different places, so I can move around. I can take my laptop with me wherever there's Wi-Fi. I can still get things done. I can work from the beach. I can work from a bar. Like this this place that I'm in now just allows me more flexibility. Um, if I decide, maybe I want to, say next year we start making even more money, and I decide that I can actually afford like a full-time like business manager that I can pay a salary to, and I can be 100% hands off, then I can say I probably won't have to do much work. But now I'm still very much working. I just have the flexibility to like kind of move about while I'm working versus being restricted to like a desk like you would in a 9 to 5.
Or you can, the VA that you've had now, you can promote them to,
Yeah,
you can start teaching her all the tasks
how
that
to
you
run
do,
things.
and
Yeah,
then hire, or she can hire a VA and teach her
yeah,
current
her.
tasks to that person.
Yes, that's absolutely an option as well.
So, s- a little bit back towards customer satisfaction and addressing issues and complaints. I feel like you don't, you get them, everybody gets
Mhm.
them, but the way you've structured everything is you've handled it so well with just being so upfront,
Yeah.
with customers, and just the experience that they get. So when issues do arise, how are you going about that?
Sure. So, most of the issues that arise are missed areas during the cleaning. That's the most common issue. Maybe they skipped the shower, maybe they skipped the bedroom or something. Um, if we're lucky, the customer will report it, um, and we'll just send the cleaning team back. It's in their contract that they have to, do a re-clean if they've missed areas. Um, Everyone is aware of that policy. And even like I mentioned in our when the customer receives like the rating email and text message, I've also updated both of those communications to say if you're not satisfied with your cleaning, please contact us right away with either our email address or our phone number. So we're usually made aware of problems immediately where we can address them immediately because we have 100% guarantee that if you're not satisfied, we'll come back and do a recleaning. If the recleaning is still not done well, we'll give you a 100% refund. Um, I think I've only had to give a 100% refund maybe like twice throughout my entire like business career. It's usually if it's a really bad experience for the customer, give them like either discount on that cleaning or a future discount, like a coupon code for them to use for like another booking. Um, that's so like it's typically like missed areas. There are times where cleaners break things. It happens. Normally, I will once the customer brings it to our attention, I'll just let them know. Just let us know the cost of repairing or replacing it, and the cleaner is responsible for paying for it. They don't typically have an issue doing that. I haven't run into an issue where the cleaner didn't want to pay for it or they didn't feel it was justified or anything. They're usually understanding when they break something, they're gonna have to take care of it. So yeah, it's usually just missed areas or something damaged. Occasionally it does not happen, thank God, often. Um, a cleaner will just be having a bad day and they will get into an actual argument with the customer. Um, it's for variety of reasons. They're just not on the same page. And I'll usually just try to have a conversation with the customer as like human to human, not even like from a business. Like, how are you feeling? I'm sorry that this happened. You have to show a lot of empathy. I'm so disappointed that you had this experience. This is not the type of experience I want my customers to have. How can we make it up to you? And a lot of times the customers, they just want to vent. They're not even necessarily looking for a discount or a solution. They just want you to hear them. So being able to listen, connect, relate, they love that. That is priceless. So it's like sometimes I'll just talk to them like, hey, let me know a good time that works for you. And I'll listen to what happened, listen to their side of the story, see what went wrong. I may say something like, we're not going to assign you that team ever again. Moving forward, you're going to have this team. And, here's 20% off your next cleaning. And they're happy with that. So like I said, luckily we have minimized our issues these days. I feel like my first and second year was a struggle trying to like learn how to just navigate that in general. But now, because I know humans, I know my customers really well, I know how to like fix a problem. And because the problems are common, like it's almost going to be the same issue each time. We have like quick scenarios. If this happens, is how to address it. They missed the area, this is how to address it. If they were late and the customer's livid about that, this is how to address it. You know what I mean? Customers just want to feel valued, and they want to feel like you care about, them. They want to feel like they're getting what they paid for, and that, they can trust that we're going to do a better job next time if we drop the ball. And that's really it. It's nothing even deeper. Like you don't have to do a lot once you, like, I guess, figured out how your customers operate and what they like and don't like. Once you figure that out, you're good to go.
It's as simple as just understanding emotional intelligence and
Yes.
having the emotional intelligence to just listen, let the customer flip out if they want. I mean,
Mhm. Mhm.
don't let yourself be berated and sweared at,
Yeah.
but um we're all human. We all make mistakes, whether it's the provider, whether it's the virtual assistant, yourself as the business owner, or even the customer is going to make a mistake and mess up. And
Yeah.
you don't know unless you just calmly, like you said,
Have
sit,
a conversation.
listen, have a conversation, let them vent, and then have that emotional intelligence and that empathy of like, I'm sorry, that's not how we do things. This is how I'll fix it.
Yeah.
And not just being like, "Oh, you're just trying to scam me. You're just
Right.
you want the cleaner to come back and re-clean something that you messed up," or
Yep.
blah blah blah. And to another point where you stated that you put it in your contracts with your providers that if any damages occur, it's on them. Any
Yeah.
breakages, it's on them, which is huge because I feel like it might hurt your hiring a little bit
Mhm.
because it's tougher because now they're going to look for possibly a higher insurance policy on
Mhm. Mhm.
themselves. Um, but it covers yourself and it also amplifies that cleaning experience that the customer is going to get because the provider is going to do everything in their power to
To
not
not
break
right.
anything or damage anything. Whereas
Yep.
if you kind of stated like, okay, if there's damage, the business insurance will cover it. They might be a little bit more laxed in the way they clean and their cleaning style, but if you're putting it on them like it's their own home, um, that's exactly how you're getting that top-notch service out of your
Yep.
providers and showing the value that your business is giving by that one simple little thing, putting it in a
Yep.
contract. You break something, you pay for it
You pay
because
for it.
you
Yeah.
were there, and it's not yours to break. Again, accidents happen. We're
Yeah.
all human. Things happen, but again, just taking that ownership and responsibility and accountability is is as much you can ask for in your providers and your workers.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's also an expectation on a customer as well. Like I can't remember the exact verbiage, but we have in our terms and conditions that, like, if there are things, for example, like you have a loose picture on the wall and we're vacuuming and that picture just falls, like we can't be held responsible for things that aren't installed properly, things that are loose. We try to let customers know that they can't clean like very small trinkets and like your china cabinet, like things that are prone to break. We avoid them. And if you have something that's like essentially like a booby trap, like we can't be held responsible for that as well. So having that expectation for the customer and the cleaner, we probably break something maybe like once every 6 months. It's rare. um, and there are sometimes customers will say, they broke this, but you know what? It was like almost already broken. So don't worry about it. You know what I mean? So some customers are understanding like this thing was already on its last days. So
Or if a customer tries to get you to pay for a new TV, say like the provider is using one of those Swiffer dusting wands
Yeah,
on a TV that's mounted on the wall, but it was mounted improperly,
improperly.
and they're stating that the cleaner, monkeyed around and just pulled on the TV and said that they broke it where they just used the Swiffer wand. That again,
Yeah,
setting that
yeah, and I
expectations on both sides is
yeah, and it's that's why it's very important that like when and if these incidents happen, I try to get like a detailed like story from both sides to see is there any
yeah,
inconsistencies, like who may be stretching the truth a bit, you know what I mean? And you can usually tell those customers that are trying to get over or trying to get something replaced for free. Sometimes they just stop pushing because they realize like, okay, like they're not falling for it.
right.
I've had customers try to say that we took their wedding ring and we'll kind of go back and forth about it, and then they'll be like, well, it's not a big deal. Like if we really took your wedding ring, it would be a big deal.
That's
You know
a
what I mean?
massive deal.
Yes. So it's like I can tell when like someone's just trying to get over on us. And I'm like, once I realize that, like, they're blocked, like they can't contact us anymore. Like,
and and
but
you'll
it's
also
rare.
know if it's like the first clean with a new
Right.
customer and
Right.
it's your all-star cleaning team or cleaner and they're stating that they did like 10K either in damages or theft.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Exactly.
Finding, like you
Exactly.
said, getting the account, the whole story from both sides, and just going from there. It's
And
big.
honestly, those type of customers, sometimes you can determine they're that type of customer before the cleaning.
Yeah,
If they, gave you a hard time during the booking process, leading up to the cleaning, now as a business owner, like this wasn't something I really practiced my first year, but now it's like just going with my gut feeling. Like this interaction with this customer does not feel good. Like I'm gonna decide not to service them. And like that's perfectly okay because you're avoiding like a disaster. So occasionally there are customers that it's like they have so many issues before even booking with us. And I'm like, you know what, this isn't a good fit. Here's some recommendations for other companies to use. So I'm like, I don't want those problems. And I could feel it. Like you always got to go with your gut. I could feel when a customer is going to be problematic. If they have a long laundry list of instructions, this is not going to work. Because we have a list of everything we're going to do. There's no reason for you to provide a list. You know what I
right.
mean? So it's I knowing that's also like one of the biggest things as a business owner is like discernment and knowing when maybe you should decline a customer, when you should get rid of a customer, and doing it immediately because the longer you prolong it, the bigger the liability is going to be, and you want to minimize all of liabilities as much as possible in your business.
Absolutely. Two things with that. There's the right and wrong way to
Hmm.
end it with a customer. And with that, it's like you don't want to blow up on them and
Right.
and you being the one berating them and calling them names and saying like you have been a pain as professionally as if you went to a $1 billion HR company and they were going to write an exit email for you, that's how you have to state because
Handle that. Hmm.
exactly, if you got to be ready for negative feedback on all your social review sites.
Yep.
If you have screenshots of, the formal etiquette that you sent out to them and you showed grace in breaking
Handling
ties
it,
with
yeah,
them, then it'll show future customers who are reading over your reviews that person was not the right fit for the cleaning company.
exactly.
Maybe they were trying to pull one over on them. But if that's how they handle and respond to
Mhm,
negativity, that's the company that I want to use. And the
right,
second
I
part to
trust
it
them.
is exactly the trust is there. You don't have to worry about anything happening. And if something does come up and something does happen, you can trust that they will handle it the right way.
Yeah,
And my
absolutely.
second part is that I kind of mention this in every interview is that not every customer is your customer. And
Yeah,
you don't want
that's
every customer.
huge.
You really don't
Nope.
want every customer because they're all different and they're all going to treat you differently. And you don't necessarily have to say no to every single person you don't like.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
not going to like everybody because some people might have a bad day, and if you're going based off first impression, if that's going to be your customer or not, your business won't go anywhere. But over time, you will learn that that person is not right for you. But just knowing from
yes,
the beginning to look out that, okay, not every customer is going to be my customer, but I first need to figure out my types of customers. You will go through a little bit of pain and hard points with dealing with people, but it's how you deal with them and how you
yeah.
respond is ultimately going to bring that success to the business.
Yeah, that's huge, and I had to kinda teach my VAs that a lot, because they were, initially, focused on just closing out leads, like, booking every single person that called, and, I had to explain to them because they'd be like, "Oh, this customer, feels like the price is too high, this is what she wants to pay." And I'm like, "Absolutely not." And I'm like, "It's okay if we don't book her." Like, I'm
Right.
okay with that because this customer that wants to clean it for $100 is going to make the cleaners do every single thing in her house, and like it's going to be a disaster. So, yeah, it's okay. And I had to teach them that as well. Like, every customer is not going to book, and that's okay. Like, I feel, especially now, I feel very confident in the customers that we have, and I'm okay with the people that choose not to book with us. It's fine. Like, I don't want every customer to book with us. Like, I want the customers that are ideal for our company to book with us, and that's it.
I guess going back to that 80% recurring
Mhm.
business that you have, it's with the word of mouth, you locked down that type of customer that you wanted.
Exactly.
And they say, look at if you want to know who someone is, you look at the five closest people to them and you'll
Mhm.
know exactly who they are. Well, now your customer is referring and doing word of mouth to their friends and family. You're going to get very similar types of customers in
Absolutely.
that. And it just, it spreads like wildfire
Yep.
in that sense. Guys, that is all for part one. We are going to come back with Poiette and have a part two because there's just so much fantastic information that she's giving us. And I'm only, a third of the way through the questions I want to ask and know how you've gotten to the point you are at with your business. So stay tuned for part two, and we will be back.